What is going on, YouTube? So coming back today with my next conference preview. And as you guys can see here, I'm doing the American Athletic Conference today. I'm moving into my group of 5 conferences now after I got done with my SEC preview, which was my last Power 5 conference preview yesterday. So the ACC, especially last year, was consensus sixth best conference in college football. I think it still is that way. It probably will be this year. It's got some teams that will really be able to compete, not just on a conference basis, but on a national basis. Obviously, Houston being the biggest one of those in winning a New Year's Six Bowl last year. And then also with USF emerging as one of the more respectable teams in the group of 5. So, let's go and get into it. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the AAC West. Go from bottom to top, and to start, I've got the Tulane Green Wave. So Tulane is a team that struggled pretty mightily in 2015 with a 3-9 record. I don't think it's going to get much better for them in 2016. They start off with a game at Wake Forest that is winnable, but they probably will not win. I don't think they will be the favorites in that game. And then just in conference, while there are winnable games, no doubt, I mean, you can never tell how group of 5 conferences are going to go. It still looks like it might be some tough pulling in the conference. So they get UL Lafayette at home. They get Navy at home, Southern at home. With Southern should be a winnable game. But either way, I think this is probably going to be a 2 or 3 win team this year. They got a running back coming back in Sherman Beatty that should be good. Devon Bro, I believe that's how you say it, and Teddy Veal should be good at wide receiver. But they do bring back a new quarterback in Devin Powell. Not new, but a new starter. And then Tanzel Smart, another name to watch out for along the defense. But anyway, move on to number 5, and I've got the SMU Mustangs, a team that has had problems competing just in the AAC for the last couple of years. This is a team that has a very tough out-of-conference schedule. They do have to go to Baylor and play TCU at home, so those are probably going to be 2 catastrophic losses, at least in my mind. And then they do have to go to Temple, to Tulsa, and to North Texas for the other for 3 of the other first 6 games of the year. At the end of the first 5 games, it could be a 1-5 team, but I do still think this is a more talented team than Tulane. Matt Davis returns as the starting quarterback. Cortland Sutton is one of their better wide receivers, young as well. So this could be a good team this year, or at least a respectable team. And Justin Lawler is another person to watch out for at defensive end. So at number 4, I've got the Tulsa Golden Hurricane. Also another team that lands some extremely tough out-of-conference games. They have to go to Ohio State on the second weekend of the season, and then they have to go to Fresno State on their 4th week. So not an easy start to the season. They also do land Navy, Memphis, and Houston all on the road, and then finish out the season against Cincinnati, a tough draw from the AAC East. So again, this team does return a lot of talent. Was a bowl team last year, lost to Virginia Tech in the final game. They bring back Dane Evans at quarterback, going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the group of 5 this year. Kevon Lucas, another name to watch out for at wide receiver. He will be a stud. But again, tough out-of-conference schedule, but in conference should be able to get to 5 or 6 wins and maybe make another bowl game. So move on to number 3, and I've got the Memphis Tigers, a team that's going to have a very different look from this previous year. Obviously, they lose their coach in Justin Fuente, and then their quarterback in Paxton Lynch, which obviously are 2 massive losses. One of the biggest reasons why they were where they were. Clay Holgerson, the son of Dana, will probably be taken over at quarterback. Sam Kraft returns as maybe the best player along the offense. Again, the offense is going to have a vastly different look. And it's a team that I still think has a lot of talent left from last year and still can be a good team. Obviously, this is a team that beat Ole Miss last year at home at one point by like 13 points. And they do have a pretty manageable schedule in conference. They get Houston at home. They do have Notre Dame at home, which is going to be, or not at home, that's in Jacksonville, Florida, so it's going to be a tough game. But most of their tougher games in conference they get at home. So, again, should be another bowl season at least. So move on to number 2, and I have the Navy Midshipmen, team that is without their all everything the last couple years in Keenan Reynolds, which is gonna hurt. But I think Taco Smith is gonna be a solid person to take over at Navy this year. This is a team that's been a solid bowl team the last couple of years. I'm not gonna say they're gonna be 11-2 like they were last year, but again, this is a team that This is another team that draws. Oh, never mind. That's Navy schedule that I was looking at for Memphis. But anyway, they do draw a pretty easy schedule in conference. Houston at home is going to be a big game. Notre Dame's normally an annual thing, but anyway, it should be a pretty manageable season, another bowl season for Navy, either way you look at it. So move on to my number 1. It's obvious. I have the Houston Cougars. There was an article I was reading on SB Nation yesterday about how they won't be that good this year, or how their over-under for wins is like 7.5 or something like that, and I just don't see that. Obviously, Greg Ward returns as one of the best quarterbacks in the country. They bring in a guy in Ed Oliver, one of the top recruits in the country. A wide receiver, Stephen Dunbar and Chance Allen, come back. Brandon Wilson at running back, another solid option along that offense. This is a team that, like I said, won the Peach Bowl last year against Florida State in what was, I believe, a 12-win season. They start off extremely tough against OU, then get a kind of a break against Lamar, then go to Cincinnati for a big game to start off their AAC season. But again, this is a team that has the full ability to win the American Athletic Conference this year. They're the most talented team coming back, and they are far and away the favorite, I think, to win this conference again this year. So move on to the ACC East, and we start with the UCF Golden Knights, a team that did not win a single game last year. And while I think they will win a game this year, it's probably going to be another tough season. They don't start off the season easy at all. They start out the season against South Carolina and then go to Michigan, and they get Maryland at home. So they're going to get tested early. Could make the rest of their season easier. I'm not 100% sure how that's going to go. Dontravius Wilson is a solid option at running back. Justin Holman returns for another season at quarterback. And, they do return quite a bit along in the secondary. I think the secondary will probably be the strength of their team. Drico Johnson at safety is probably going to be one of their biggest assets, but again, it might be a rough year for UCF. I wouldn't say another winless year, though. Anyway, move on to number 5 inside the conference. And some people might be surprised by this because of the amount of returning players they have, but I do think it'll be the UConn Huskies. Now, UConn, they return a lot, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Akeel Newsom and Ron Johnson come back as a pretty good 1-2 punch running back. And then you're looking at Jamar Summers, one of the best cornerbacks in the conference. So I think it still can be a solid team. They were a 6-win team last year. Tough challenger inside the AAC, but they do draw a pretty tough schedule. They have to go to East Carolina, at USF, at Houston, at Navy, and then they also draw Cincinnati at home. So it won't be an easy schedule by any sense of the word. They do also have to play Virginia and Boston College, 2 Power 5 programs, and Syracuse, 3 Power 5 programs, all from the ACC out of conference. But anyway, move on to my number 4, and I've got the East Carolina Pirates, a team that brings back quite a bit of talent on the offensive side of the ball. Quarterback situation is completely unknown even to me right now. Marquez Grayson is probably the starter at running back coming back for this year, and then they have 2 very talented receivers in Devon Grayson and Isaiah Jones. On the defensive side of the ball, Trevon Simmons comes back to lead a secondary that should be very good once again. Along the defensive line, Frederick Presley, Dimitri McGill should be leading that squad, and a schedule that honestly isn't that tough. They do draw NC State, at South Carolina, and then at Virginia Tech out of conference. So we'll see what happens there. But they do get Navy at home, UConn at home, SMU at home, at Temple, at Cincinnati, and at USF is going to be tough though. So move on to number 3, and I've got the Temple Owls, team that had a fantastic season under Matt Rule last year, but I believe a 10-win season. Ended up having a in my mind, pretty successful campaign. They returned Jahad Thomas and P.J. Walker, maybe the best running back, quarterback set in the conference, I'd say, outside of USF and Houston. They probably even compete with USF in that department. But they also returned Ramon Deloach at wide receiver. So the problem for them is going to be along the defensive. Is going to be on the defensive front. Now, this is a team that loses Tyler Matakevich, one of the best linebackers just in the country last year. Sean Chandler will lead that group at linebacker. He's a very solid option at linebacker, and Avery Williams will take the spot of Tyler Matakevich. So we'll see what happens there. A pretty average schedule in conference, if you ask me. So should be another bowl season for Temple. So at number 2, I've got the Cincinnati Bearcats. A team that I could see improving a lot heading into this year. Obviously, this is another team that relies very heavily on their quarterback, and I think that's going to be the biggest thing this year is Gunnar Kiel's health. It's been something that's eluded him the last couple of years. They've got a lot of returning talent on offense. Shaq Washington, Johnny Holton at wide receiver, a very experienced wide receiving core. Tion Green at running back. Actually, they might have lost both those guys. Don't quote me on that. Anyway, and then even along the defense, this is going to be an extremely talented team. Brings back a lot of players, including the secondary led by Zach Edwards at safety. Again, this is a team that if Tion Green is productive, they've got a running back stable, about 4 running backs deep. But if Gunnar Kiel especially can stay healthy, this will be a dangerous team this year. So move on to my number 1, and I've got the South Florida Bulls. A team that beat Western Kentucky in their bowl game I think they lost to Western Kentucky in their bowl game last year, came back. But a team that I believe will be extremely dangerous heading into 2016. They were just outside of my top 25, and this is a team that brings back Darius Tice, Marlon Mack, maybe the deepest stable of running backs in the AAC. Quentin Flowers is a tremendous option at quarterback. Again, one of the better quarterbacks in the conference. Along the defense, they've got Deatrick, Nichols, one of the better corners in just in this entire conference, if not in the entire country. Ronnie Higgins returns opposite corner. It would be another good option. Nate Godwin returns at safety. Should be an extremely deep and good secondary. This is a team that has the ability to win 10 games this year. Northern Illinois is going to be a big game out of conference. They draw them at home in Tampa, and then they get Florida State at home, which is going to be actually a very tough game, obviously. But anyway, move on to what I think is going to happen in the conference championship game. Obviously, I got the Houston Cougars and the USF Bulls, and I actually think that this is going to end up being an upset. I think that Houston is a team that came very close to losing a lot of games last year, and they did not. I think that USF has the talent to be able to do it this year. I think Marlon Mack and Darius Tice are just too talented for a lot of these AAC teams to stop. But anyway, get into my players, or my awards for the year, dark horse of disappointment, that sort of thing. So, start off with my offensive player of the year. I think it's going to be Greg Ward. I just think he's going to be able to carry that Houston team to whatever whatever levels they reach in the conference, and by playing a team like OU will be determined by him. So, defensive player of the year, I think, will be Deatrick Nichols at USF. Like I said, I expect a huge year out of USF, and he will be the leader of that defense. Newcomer, I think it will be Ed Oliver. I mentioned him earlier at Houston, a five-star recruit, one of the top defensive recruits in the country. Come in, will start day 1 probably for Houston along that defensive line. Coach of the year is going to be Tom Herman. I think that the level he's brought Houston to, I think they're the most sure thing for the conference championship, even though I think that in my mind, USF has the ability to do it. Again, just great job with what he's done with Houston's program. And then dark horse, I think it's going to be the Cincinnati Bearcats. Like I said, if Gunnar Kiel's healthy for a full year, this is a very potent offense. A team that, if they do stay healthy, returns, I believe, 15 starters. So they have a lot of returning experience. It's just a matter of staying healthy. That was the big thing for Cincinnati last year that they were not able to do. And my disappointment is going to be the Memphis Tigers. Again, thing I mentioned earlier, they lose Paxton Lynch, they lose Justin Fuente, who brought their program to new heights. Paxton Lynch obviously was a fantastic quarterback last year, a first-round pick now with the Denver Broncos. I just don't think the team's going to be as good in an AAC West that's very, very good at the top between Navy and Houston. So that pretty much does it for my AAC conference preview. I will be coming back either later today or tomorrow with my Sun Belt, so stay tuned for that. But that's pretty much it. See ya.